Hi, I'm Sam Kearns, and this is the second video log entry in my series about what it's like to be an aspiring music artist. Now, what's been going on for me this week is that I finished a song, which is great. It's the first song I've finished in about 6 weeks. I quite surprised myself when, I mentioned in last week's entry that I was quite surprised to find that I had quite a lot of music when I went back and pulled all of my catalogue together, that, I'd written more than I thought I had. And, when I finished this song this week, I put that in the list, and it suddenly occurred to me that if I took away all of the songs that were only instrumentals or songs that were really, I wouldn't be that proud to perform them. They're just in there because, I'm proud that I finished something. Even if I took all those songs away, I now have enough to actually fill a 45-minute set of performing my work. And that's significant because about 5 years ago, it was about 6 years ago when I first decided to really throw myself back into, trying to learn how to write music and trying to do songwriting. I sort of set myself this goal where I said, I'm not going to work super hard on my performance, and on trying to get a band together or any of those other things until I had songwriting sorted, until I felt like I was, songwriting was something I could easily do, if I needed new songs, that I felt comfortable and confident that I could do that. And the way that the measurement for that goal was that, only when I'd written a full set of songs that I could perform would I worry about all the other stuff. Now, I did have to diverge from that in one way, which is that I couldn't even really do justice to my demos without getting my voice up to scratch. It's kind of hard to write for an instrument when you don't even know what the instrument is. And I think, the sound of your voice and your range, etc., really informs what you can even write. So, I've got my, as I mentioned last week, I've done, vocal training in the last few years quite intensively. And that has helped a lot. But now, and it wasn't until I finished this song on Tuesday night at midnight, and I taped out the MP3, and I sat down and I thought, wow, I've got quite a few full songs that are proper songs, by which I mean, lyrics and arrangement and they're actual songs I could sing and perform. And I thought, how many do I have? And I sat down and I counted up all the durations, and it's well over 45 minutes, could be even 55 minutes, depending on which ones I choose to put in and out. But there's even wiggle room to take out songs that might not work. It was just one of those moments that just totally took me by surprise. Because quite frankly, I don't necessarily feel like I've got the songwriting thing worked out. And I think that's one of the lessons here, is that, songwriting is hard. But just because it's hard and just because you struggle doesn't mean you're not doing it. It doesn't mean you're not actually making progress. Because, I honestly thought that if I got to this stage, that songwriting would be easy by now. And it's not. Because, this song that I wrote just this week, the actual theme of the lyrics is all about feeling stuck creatively and struggling to get something out. Because I hadn't written something in 7 weeks and 6 or 7 weeks, and I've set myself my goal as ostensibly being to put out something at least once a month. So this song is late according to my intentions, but something else I'd like to say about the process of actually writing those lyrics was that, I was trying to write a song according to, a course, because, I'd been following this course about songwriting because, I'm constantly feeling like it's really pulling teeth to get lyrics together. I'm always really scratching my head and I was trying to, I'd picked a topic and I was sort of trying to mechanically work through the actual, putting down of the ideas and coming up with concepts for different parts of the song. And it just wasn't working. And so then, in frustration, I just started free writing, like just, writing just what came to mind, just, like stream of consciousness sort of thing. I just started free writing about the frustrations of writing. And, I quickly wrote 3 or 4 successive lines just straight off that actually were a little bit lyrical. And I was like, well, there's something. And I wasn't even, and I guess this is another thing, is I wasn't actually thinking of music and I wasn't thinking of melody at the time. I wasn't thinking, okay, I want to sing something. I was just writing words, and I wasn't even trying to rhyme them or anything. I was just trying to write out my frustration, and I was just doing it in a very free writing sort of way where I wasn't trying to it's not like I was trying to explain to someone else. It wasn't like, dear diary, I am feeling very much like this. It was just, if I can read, like the first few lines of it were just like, sitting here, because it actually starts off with me being, because when I get frustrated trying to write lyrics, I always end up just surfing the web. I end up just getting pulled into distractions. And, I've been spending way too much time on Facebook. And so, the lyric starts, sitting here every day, scrolling through the trash can of everybody else's random thoughts. I'm an addict, but I can't stop voyeurizing because while I am, it's hypnotizing me from being what I want to be. Which was just about me, because this is concept again in The War of Art, which was a book I mentioned last week, about resistance. And it's absolutely true. Again, if you struggle with creativity, get that book, Steven Pressfield, The War of Art, and he will describe your inner life to you and lay it out bare. And, this is me struggling with the resistance right here. And then, so I wrote that much and thought, that's kind of a little bit poetic. Maybe I'll try and write some more. And so, again, trying not to overthink it, trying not to make it be something. And it's like, I try to force myself to be productive, but it doesn't work that way. I just get blocked and stuck again. All I really need to do is stop needing this to be something I'm not. I'm referring there to me trying to pick some subject to write about and then try to write about a song about some subject. When it's not really what's on my mind, I'm just kind of artificially trying to force this song out. So it's all I really need to do is stop needing this to be something I'm not, and stop being so afraid to tell the truth. Because the truth is that I'm just sitting here struggling to try to think of something to write. And so that's how I came up with the lyrics for this song. And I actually found once I have the lyrics, then I don't know if it's because I play piano. I improvise on my piano a lot. On my keyboard, I improvise a lot. I've spent many more years than that than I have trying to write lyrics. But the point I'm trying to make here is once I've got words, I don't find it very hard to put a melody on it. So very quickly that turned into a melody, and the chorus line became "I'm locked away," and "Locked Away" is now the name of the song. I'm locked away, and I'm living in a self-destructive mess. It's true, self-destructive. A little bit of poetic license there. I mean, I'm actually fairly together as a person, but just surfing Facebook all the time is not very productive, at least. Now, yeah, and then I wrote another verse. I sort of free wrote another verse after that just wasn't poetic. You know, it didn't work at all. This one was like, I look for mentors and advice and soak up self-help courses, always looking for that key that will unlock my creativity. But I'm never going to find it because it's not out there. What's worse, I already know it, but I just can't face the horror of throwing open myself and letting everybody in. I'm locked away, etc. And, you know, I like the sentiment of what I'm trying to say there, but it just doesn't flow. And I tried to think of ways to sort of rewrite the same thing, but the moment was gone. And then, you know, that was the first night, and I recorded melody, and I was really happy with how it was going. Then that was Monday night, and then Tuesday night I sat down, I'm like, right, I really need a second verse for this, and that one I wrote is a real stinker. So then, again, just putting myself in that mindset of, you know, just free writing, just trying to just express thoughts as they come off the top of my head about what it's like trying to write this song. I then ended up writing, now, even though I know how this works, because now I'm thinking about last night's lyric session and how, you know, I sort of realized that, you know, I need to stop, you know, forcing myself to sort of forcing it to be a certain thing and just letting come what flows straight off the, you know, off the top of my mind. And so I wrote this bit. Now, even though I know how this works, it doesn't make it go away, meaning the difficulty. Every day I still struggle against this force of undoing that pushes me down again. The force of undoing being like the resistance to create. I used to hope that I would conquer it one day, but now I know that this fight against the force of doing nothing is the way of all good men. And that's kind of the lesson of this song, and one of the lessons I'm sort of trying to impart in this little episode of this video log is that it doesn't get easy. You just accept that it's hard, and you know, when you get past, you know, the fact that it's not easy actually makes the completion of each song even more satisfying. You know, maybe one day I'll be like one of those Nashville-style songwriters who can just sit down and pull out a newspaper, and because this is what you read about in books about, you know, and courses and things about how to do songwriting, is they're like, well, you need a title, so, you know, open the newspaper and just look for, you know, some inflammatory sentence, or, you know, just something that's really sort of, you know, grabs you and makes you think, oh, what's that about? And then, you know, write your lyrics about this topic. And, you know, I can't do that yet. I don't know if this is, you know, like an amateur thing or what, but the only way that I know that I can get lyrics to come out sounding, you know, good and interesting and not forced is if I'm, you know, just literally just spewing out what is happening at the very forefront of my mind, you know. And if I'm trying to write a song about something, and sometimes, you know, I try to write songs about things that are important to me, but it's like I've sat down and I've thought, what am I going to write a song about, you know? And it's like, you know, I'm writing a song to sort of put out my opinion about something, and even that doesn't work. You know, I need to, you know, so far, I need to just sit down and just like spew out the thing that's just right on the front of my brain. And that's kind of what works. But yeah, the point I was trying to make is just that even though I have reached my goal of, you know, I've written 45 minutes of, you know, A-grade songs, you know, by my standards, you know, I've discluded all the B-grade ones that I think are just not worth it. But, you know, of my better songs, I have at least 45 minutes worth that I can put together as a performance set, and I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing with songwriting. And that's okay. So, you know, this video log is about what it's like to be an aspiring artist, and well, that's what it's like. It's hard, and just because you're confused and you're frustrated doesn't mean you're not moving forward. It doesn't mean that you're not getting somewhere. I'm still struggling. Maybe in a couple of years' time, I will be like, yeah, I've finally got this. But maybe that'll be like after my second or third album or something. I mean, there's plenty of artists out there. Second album syndrome is a thing, because a lot of artists like write their first album and then struggle to write their second, because for their first album they had everything they'd ever done available to choose from. And they, ostensibly had all the time in the world that they needed to get up to the start line of like securing a record deal and releasing the first album. But then they only have this short period of time, especially if you take out touring and all those sorts of things. They only have a short period of time to then repeat that. And a lot of even hugely successful bands can fail at that because I think it's because they don't necessarily have everything worked out. They don't necessarily know how, they're not just like, yes, I've arrived as a songwriter and now I can just bang out hits. Not saying there aren't people like that, but I think that that's something that would have to come with many, many years and dozens, if not hundreds, of songs under your belt before you'd probably be at that point. I don't know. Maybe it'll suddenly happen next year for me. That would be awesome. But for now, it is still hard to write songs, but I have written songs. And so from here, after having this epiphany just yesterday of, oh my God, I did it. I passed the goal that I set, where I said, I've arrived as a songwriter when I reached this point, and by golly, I've reached it. And I don't feel like the songwriter I thought I would feel like. But, with my new strategy of being kind to myself and trying to, accept and internalize success, even, if I'm, my sort of gut reaction is to say, well, that's not really successful, but it is. I'd like to be able to say that I have arrived as a songwriter, and that, this is just the beginning, but it's an important milestone. And so that's my video log entry for this week. I'm going to be making them a fair bit shorter. My first one went for a full hour because I was afraid I wouldn't have anything to talk about, and I wrote down a whole bunch of bullets, and then I found that I waffled on for ages for each one of those. So then I was thinking, maybe I should just make it one video per bullet, and I think that's probably a good idea, because then I can, title the videos about certain topics, and it'd be easy for people to go back and sift through if they want to. So that's it. Song written, goal reached. Now I just need to pick that short list and start organising it into an EP or some kind of release, which is exciting. After 5 years of trying to get somewhere as a songwriter, I finally hit that goal. Yeah, and I didn't think I'd be saying this in the second episode. That's another lesson here. Last week, I had no idea I was close to this goal, Maybe that's another one of the, imposter syndrome, difficulty internalising your own success things, but there it is. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment. It would be lovely. And see you around. Cheers.